Hello, I'm Craig Constantine.
Oh, hi, I'm Annie Parnell.
Hi, Annie. Thanks, as I say to everybody, because I really mean it. Thanks for taking the time. It's not easy to schedule, to find a half an hour, to spin up the software, to be with the microphones, to make the thing work and get all the tech going. But what I love about this show is all the podcasters are usually down for a tech challenge. So thanks for making it all happen. So many things to talk about. So we have a little conversation beforehand, and I agreed with what you said, which is a good jumping off point would be, how did you get here? And we don't mean in front of the microphone for Craig's thing. We mean, how did you get into podcasting? Because you are not, I'm going to say what most people are going to think of as a typical podcaster. Like, the content you're creating is, I don't mean unusual in a bad way, unique. The content that you're creating is very specifically targeted. You have a very clear who it's for. So how'd you get to podcasting?
Well, let's see. The good place to start would be tell people that I'm an indie author
Mm-hmm.
and I write romance, but romance with a twist. And what I mean is that I write historical romantic suspense with,
Mm-hmm.
and the twist is that it's has a feminist slant and that my women are kick butt. And as an indie author, I have what's called a launch team. And the launch team reads my manuscripts before they get published.
Mm.
And what happened was in my last book, which was called Trading Kisses.
And how many books are there? Because this is like, you're not a newbie at this. How many books are there in
No,
this series?
that was number 6. And
Okay.
I also have a novella and a free short story, which your readers, or I should say listeners, can go to my website, which is annieparnell.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get a free download of my short story in any format that you want, meaning Mobi, PDF, or EPUB. So you can read it on anything. It's only electronic unless you do the PDF.
Cool.
So what happened was one of the members of my launch team liked my work, and it was the first time she was exposed to it. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to go and listen to the rest of your books." And I went,
Uh-oh.
I went, fat chance. And
So sorry. Thank you for
I
playing.
know. So in one moment, I was elated, and the next moment, I crashed.
No. In one moment, you're elated. The next moment, the to-do list got really big.
Well, no, it was closer to crashing when I found out what the costs were
To
involved.
have somebody else audio. Yes.
And not only that, but the production companies want to own you, which drives me nuts. They
Oh,
want a
you're
piece
kidding.
of
I
your.
don't believe it. The caution. This is where Craig gets on his soapbox about hating on some of the podcast outlets, but keep going. Indie
Okay, well,
author.
the people who produce audiobooks seem to
Hmm.
have the same
Hmm.
approach. And so I contacted a friend of mine who's also an author. His name is Orlando A. Sanchez, and his books are fabulous. If you're into urban fantasy, not romance, O says he would never write a romance. But
Hmm.
anyway, they're very funny. And I asked him what was involved. And he told me soup to nuts. And all of a sudden the cost was going up and up and up. And I was thinking, holy crap, this is not going to work.
Hmm.
And then enters my daughter who said, well, she said, more than a year ago, Mom, you really need to do a podcast because people in her age range in her 20s, that's their thing.
Right.
And so what I realized is I didn't want to write about or talk about keep making the
Yeah.
wrong.
Meta. Right. You want to make
Yeah.
a meta podcast about the process of writing a book, or about, yeah. You're
Yeah.
like,
And
how
I
do
was
I
like,
pour the book into a podcast?
yeah. And so that, or to coach people how to write, who everybody wants to do a book. And
Yeah.
the thing was, there is no magic wand. And so I was like, no, I'm
Damn
not
it.
going to do that. I'm not going to promise something I can't deliver. What it amounts to is putting your butt in the chair and doing the work. And so I didn't want to do that. And so I went away. And then when that woman said, well, I'm going to go read it, it was like, bing, they came
Hmm.
together. And then the third piece was the Akimbo workshop, which I'd
Hmm.
been eyeing anyway.
Hmm.
And so I came full tilt into the podcasting workshop, knowing that I was an odd man out or odd woman out. And every time we got assignments, I kept having to torque them.
Yeah, yeah.
to be, something that I could use. So that's how I got here.
But I think that's the right. So I've seen a couple, two or three, four people go through those courses, and that's the right attitude. When people go, I don't, this doesn't work for me, what? Then it doesn't end well. But when they go, whoa, that's interesting. I'm going to run it through my shredder. Now I'm taking the third and the seventh strip, and we're going to make so there's definitely, and I don't know, maybe it comes out of the fabric of who you need to be an indie author, but there's something about what can I get out of the thing that you're faced with to try and find the next hurdle, or what's the next, what's the route through the brambles here. So just tell me a little bit about, because I don't get to talk about this that much with other podcasters, talk about what you're doing, like people who can't see, but just on the side of the frame, what are you actually doing now with your books, and like, how
Ah,
is it a podcast?
well, what I decided to do was, since I couldn't pay, chunk up the cash
Not
for a
enough kidneys,
professional.
right?
Yeah, for a professional. What I did was I what I'm doing is recording my book,
Hmm.
one of my first ones, and it was very difficult mentally to get to this point because I was thinking, "You can't give anything away. This is your," and it was really hard to wrap my head around
So
it.
you're literally reading the whole book. I
Yes, I
mean, I know
am.
this, but I'm unpacking it for people.
It's okay.
You're
I'm
like going to
reading my
read the
book.
whole book, okay?
Yeah, and it was very difficult to wrap my head around the fact that I was gonna give some of my work away. And enter Seth Godin and
Mm.
his attitude about being generous, and I am. I'd say I was generous, except if you piss me off, and then I'm not so generous,
Well,
but
generous and doormat are two different things, right?
they are.
They're very
And
important.
so I started when I'm in chapter 4, the book I'm reading is called The Reluctant Countess, and it's actually the first book in my series, which is the underlying theme with my series is a sisterhood. And
Hmm.
because what I believe is that in our culture, since time immemorial, that we've been taught to be adversarial, and that's a mistake. That what we need to look at is being sisters to one another and holding each other up. And I personally found that to be true when I'm actually a cancer survivor. So is my girlfriends who got me through to the other side. And so in their honor, that became the underlying theme of my work.
Mm.
And only here comes another twist. I set the book not in modern times, but in the mid 1700s. So, which is a very bawdy time in history. So I can have some license that way. I also believe that most things are written from a male point of view in terms of our historical view of the world.
Hmm.
And why couldn't those women have existed?
Because if they
As
did, they wouldn't have been written in. That's for sure. Right.
No,
What?
not
That's
at all. So
challenging, Skip.
so I alter history, I guess you'd say. And,
I don't know if I'd say alter history. I would say increase the number of perspectives we have on history, but that's just me.
yes, so that's what the book is about. I introduced you to the idea of the sisterhood, and the woman who started it is Eleanor Barrett, and she never wanted to be anything but, an independent woman, and that changes by the end of the story, but, other things
Mm.
happen along the way. She solves a mystery, there's suspense. She figures out why these girls are missing. Little girls are going missing, and Eleanor figures it out, not the men.
Hmm.
And then she puts her life on the line to masquerade as a charwoman. Anyway, my podcast is
Complex
called
narratives. Yes.
yeah, my podcast is called Have I Got a Tale to Tell? And I'm figuring that'll drop. I'm at chapter 4 right now. I'm shooting for mid-December to drop 10 chapters,
Hmm.
and so people can binge listen to it or do it one a week, and then, there are 30 some odd chapters.
In the first book. Right. Okay.
Yes, in the first book.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a whole bunch there to unpack, but I'm gonna like probably I'll stick a pin in it and we'll never make it back. You watch.
Alright.
Tell me about when you first saw when you first caught a glimpse of what what a podcast could be like when you first caught the glimpse of, oh no, wait, I could just what we would kind of call host on mic this. What like avenues did you see opening in new directions? Like as an author, as a writer, you've cut your teeth, I can do this. This is possible. That's not possible. What new things did like come into view when you first got that glimpse?
Oh, this is funny because, well, first of all, I got to personally play around with what in the business is called Foley.
Yeah.
I got to mess around with sound effects, which was totally fun, and I could. I wouldn't ever consider myself. I've worked in television and things like that, but never in film. And this gave me the opportunity to take my writing to another level
Hmm.
because I could hear the audio and then I could add the sound effects instead of just doing it audio. So that was one thing that was, I really loved that. And then the other thing was, I remember through my childhood, then adolescence, and into young adulthood, that we used to be able to go to indie bookstores and authors would be on book tour. And so
Back in the
the dark
day,
days, yes.
are there bookstores anymore? Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
I
a
hear you.
few, and I do patronize them, and you could, and I took my kids to hear some children's authors talk and draw, and there's nothing quite as magical as hearing an author read their work,
Right,
and
because there's
so
so much more in there. It's not just the here are the words from the robot voice. It's like here
yeah,
is what this author, and this is the really important part. Yeah.
exactly, and so all of a sudden, the bar that was being held up for me in my mind by comparing myself to fully produced audiobooks changed into, "Oh, I'm going to give my listeners an opportunity to hear author on mic."
Hmm.
And so you're gonna get to hear what I heard in my head when I heard the, character talk.
Hmm.
You
Or
know,
the
I'm not
ambiance of
making
the singing. Yeah.
voices, but I
Oh,
do.
damn it! I
I
was
know.
all right.
I haven't gotten that far yet. And, but I do the inflections, the intent is stronger with me reading
Hmm.
than somebody who's dramatically thinking they understand where I was going in a story. And so those 2 things, getting to play around with the Foley and also picturing because my setup is I stand up and I get to move my arms around, and and
This
I'm
is why you don't.
acting it
Yeah.
out and I'm doing
Put the
all this.
microphone on a boom, right? So you don't wipe it
That's
out with your arms.
exactly. And I went and I had a friend of mine who is a professional singer and songwriter come and look at my setup. I have a
Mm-hmm.
music stand over here. She said, "You need to make this fit you, not bend over to get to your mic."
Yes.
She helped me do my setup.
Yeah.
And
You need
so, yes,
space.
my arms are waving. She calls it the Hamlet pose,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like,
Alas,
ah.
poetic. I knew him well. Like,
So I'm like doing it all, kind of freewheeling in front of the mic without
mhm.
anybody watching, and hopefully it is transcending and getting imprinted on my audio. So,
Are you going to use the same pre-launch team or a different or any? Is anybody going to like? Are you pre-launch like? You're pre-launching the book. You're just going to cold drop the episodes and like have a
well,
blankie and
not
hope it goes
exactly.
well.
I may give some people a listen, but what some friends of mine, I did my first of all, I have a Facebook group, a private Facebook group called the Sisterhood, and I've been promoting myself there. I've been telling in the sense that I'm telling them what I'm up to. And then I did when we did the trailers inside the workshop,
Mhm.
I posted it. And the feedback I got was almost worse than the feedback when I actually give them books to read. It was like, "That doesn't sound like you." You know? I'm
Really?
like, "I
Please,
know."
please.
I'm
What's
like,
that? There's a Gene Wilder meme. Please tell me more about how I
I
acted.
know, I love Gene Wilder. And it is but it was just I was like, "What the F are you talking about?" It was like, "Have you ever tried this?"
Yeah.
And it was like, it was totally not encouraging. So,
Mm.
I'm vacillating between pre-release or having a launch team and doing just cold, letting people know it's out there and, just letting the fur fly, you
There's
know?
also the question of I gotta believe if you like editing is not going to be easy. Like if you decide that there's something wrong with the third piece that you recorded, you got to do the whole thing over. You cannot just open the digital document. And I mean, I know I'm not saying it's easy, but you can't just edit the text and then hit save. It's like no, it's hard. I mean,
Well, the thing is
especially when
that
you have Foley.
what I've been doing, though, is it takes longer, but I listen in short clips so
Hmm.
I can hear, and the other thing I've given myself the grace to go, "Okay, that's not perfect."
Hmm.
And
Who said like perfect is a place to hide? I don't know if that's from Seth or from Stephen Pressfield, or that's like a common I almost said trope, but that's negative. It's a common
yeah.
cautionary here lie,
Oh,
dragons,
I
hidden
had
dragons.
one I cut too close yesterday, and I was going, "Oh, I need to re-record that whole section," and there was part of me going, "No. No. No.
No,
Just
mine's just
keep
a little across.
going.
Just keep
Just keep
going.
going." I wouldn't be at 4 if it wasn't, I'm about
Hmm.
10 minutes into the 4th chapter, and I realized the Facebook post I did today was all about, as you know, I made a mistake with my audio after I took a download, and I thought when you deal with technology, this is the marriage of technology and creativity and, um, just all of these different parts of your brain trying to function together,
Yeah.
and that I thought I checked after I took the download that which input was there, and it turned out I hadn't checked the right
Hmm.
box, and that's why I couldn't record. And
Yeah.
instead of, hiding and saying, "Okay, nobody better find out about this because then I'll be ruined or they will never listen," I was like, "I just put it out there," you
Yeah,
know? I
we got a
mean
support group for that. It's called Everybody. It meets at the bar. Yeah, which is a Drew Carey joke. Yeah, but yes, no,
No, it's
you
true.
posted that, and it was like yeah, you emailed me first, and I'm just like, whoa, you must really like be freaking out if you're emailing. I'm like, oh, you're traveling, okay, and then it was yeah, but when you finally you figured it out on your own, but everybody else was like, did you try this? It was like a great sounding board experience. So,
It
um,
was, and the thing is, if we don't one of the things that I've learned for myself is it's human to make mistakes, and why not share it? Because,
right.
um, I'm not perfect, but I invest so much of my time trying to pretend that I am, that it was a waste of time. Instead of That's why I'm willing to put out audio that isn't immaculate, you
As
know?
immaculate as it might possibly be. Um,
Exactly.
Tangential side tip for those listening, Craig's pro tip. If you ever do an interview with me, one of the things I do is I say, hit that mic that you think you're talking to. Because a lot of times people hit, they go, and you don't hear it. And I'm like, you're not talking to what you think you're talking to. And they're like, oh shit, or like they tap on their computer and it's real loud. So I tell people, this stuff isn't made of eggshells. Just give it a, yes, that's the mic. Okay. Don't do it while you're recording, but yes. And that's a quick way to like double check that you're talking. Okay. Let's see. Oh, so many things. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Anything else on the top of your mind? Like a couple minutes left that you're like, ooh, I wanted to talk about, but we didn't get there.
Let's see. I think that well, first of all, I should let you know again that go to annieparnell.com to
Spell
get
it.
a free, short story. It's called Do No Harm,
Hmm.
and that's a precursor.
How do you spell Annie Parnell? A
ANNIEPARNELL period com,
Com. Yeah,
COM.
the double L and the Parnell was the point I was
Yes,
getting. Okay.
and it's all one word. There's no spaces in
No,
between Annie
no
Parnell.
punctuation. And the short story is called.
Do no harm. And the thing about it is I love to hear from people, so please, if
Are
you
you going to
hated it,
record it? Are you going to record it as an episode?
I might, because I love that story, and
How many
that,
words? How long is it?
that one is it's 50 pages. I haven't looked at the word count lately, but
It's
it's
something. That's something like 10,000 words or something like
yes,
that.
it is. I think mine's higher because I tend to do a lot of, what would I call it? you get to a sense of the background and the ambiance.
Mm.
So
A little more
it's not,
color.
although I tend to like to dwell in the world of dialogue because I think
Mm.
we reveal more that way, and it's more interesting to be engaged as a
Yeah.
reader.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess
When
I
you
could
get
talk about the writing. I've been at it for a while. I've been 10 plus years. I did the traditional thing. I went to conferences, pitched agents and acquiring editors, and got nowhere. Well, I didn't get the final, would you sign on the dotted line? I did get asked for partials or fulls. And in the end, what I realized was I needed to choose myself because there wasn't anybody out there who was going to take a chance on me. And so if you're out there thinking about it, I'd say go for it. Yeah, and be willing to make mistakes because you're gonna make them, and don't. They're not cringeworthy. They're just they're just mistakes, and I've
learn
made plenty
worthy.
of them. Yes,
Yeah.
and let's see if there's anything else.
Oh, I think
I
that's
don't
good.
think so.
Perfect. Annie, thanks. As I said at the beginning, thanks for taking the time. It was a pleasure to get a chance to chat. We've done, as I say, we've done the Hollywood Square things countless times now, but it's always fun to talk one on one without having to like wait your turn. Cool. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the offer.
Bye.
Bye, Craig.